What's up, guys? It's MB Boxing, and today I'm going to be predicting the outcome of Errol Spence Jr. versus Yordenis Ugas, and this is going to be a 12-rounder for the unified WBC, WBA, and IBF Welterweight World Championship, and this fight is going to be Saturday, April 16th, from the AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, and this fight is going to be broadcasted on Showtime pay-per-view. And to get both fighters' resumes, Errol Spence Jr., fighting out of the United States, holds a record of 27 wins with no defeats and 21 wins coming by way of knockout. He's currently ranked inactive by BoxRec because he hasn't fought since December of 2020. However, he is the current unified WBC and IBF Welterweight World Champion. And to list some of his best victories, he has a knockout win over Chris Van Heerden, a knockout win over Chris Algieri, a knockout win over Leonard Bundu, a knockout win over Kell Brook, a knockout win over Lamont Peterson. He also has a knockout win over Carlos Ocampo, and he has a unanimous decision win over Mikey Garcia, a split decision win over Sean Porter, and in his most recent fight, as I mentioned before, which took place in December of 2020, he got a unanimous decision win over Danny Garcia after getting in a horrific car crash. And to get his opponent's resume, Yordenis Ugas, fighting out of Cuba, holds a record of 27 wins with 4 defeats and 12 wins coming by way of knockout. He's currently ranked number 2 by BoxRec in the welterweight division, and he is the current WBA Welterweight World Champion. And to first of all list all 4 of his defeats, he has a split decision loss to Johnny Garcia, a split decision loss to Emmanuel Robles, a unanimous decision defeat to Amir Imam, and he has a split decision loss to Sean Porter, which was very controversial. And to list some of his best victories, he has a unanimous decision win over Jamal James, a knockout win over Brian Perella, a unanimous decision victory over Thomas Delorme, a knockout win over Ray Robinson, a unanimous decision victory over Omar Figueroa Jr., and he also has a split decision win over Abel Ramos. And then his most recent fight, which took place in August of 2021, he got an upset, unanimous decision victory over Manny Pacquiao. And in my opinion, this fight is a very interesting and fun unification in the welterweight division for 3 belts. However, I am edging the current unified world champion, Errol Spence Jr., to get the job done. So Errol Spence Jr. has been a bit inactive recently due to the fact that he got into a car crash and everything. His most recent fight was in 2020. It's been a while since we've seen him, over like a year and a half or so. So, yeah, I mean, I'm very excited to see how Errol Spence Jr. does against a guy like Yordenis Ugas. Ugas in his last fight looked excellent against Manny Pacquiao. And Manny Pacquiao, although he was older, it's still a very, very good win. And many people, myself included, were not even picking Ugas to win, as he was an underdog. So, yeah, he got that nice upset win. And his resume is very underrated, as he's beaten a lot of decent level fighters, including, as I mentioned before, James, Perella, Delorme, etc. He's beaten a lot of decent guys. So, and even Abel Ramos included. I mean, he's got a very solid resume. Former regular champion when he defeated Abel Ramos. Now current super champion when he defeated Pacquiao. He just had a very, very good year and a half or so. And this is for Yordenis Ugas. However, Errol Spence Jr. has not. Getting in that car crash where his car flipped numerous times. Thankfully, he did survive that, and seemingly he's recovered well, being that he fought pretty well against Danny Garcia. So, yeah, I mean, his resume is also very, very good, and this is for Spence Jr. Beat Mikey Garcia dominantly, beat Porter, beat Danny Garcia, beat Kell Brook. I mean, he's beaten a lot of really, really good fighters. And so, I mean, whoever wins this fight will get an excellent win on their resume no matter what. And how I really see this fight going down, it really could be a very interesting and close and competitive fight. Or Yordenis Ugas' game in this fight is going to really be to box on the outside like he did to Pacquiao, really try and land counter punches, because he knows that he does not have that power edge over Spence, and he knows that Spence is the faster fighter. Spence definitely is. Spence is definitely faster, and he definitely has more power than Ugas. But Ugas has a lot of boxing IQ coming from that Cuban school. Also works with Ismail Salas, also very, very good trainer with the fundamentals of boxing. Excellent trainer, that is, Errol Spence Jr. Also with a really good team. So, I mean, both these fighters are really high class in the welterweight division. And they're definitely inside the top 5. Both of them respectfully, Errol Spence Jr. possibly even the number 1 in the welterweight division. So, yeah, I mean, Yordenis Ugas, he's really just going to try and box in this fight. And just before I really get into my breakdown of each round in this fight and my result, what I think it will be, just comment down below your thoughts on this fight, who you think the winner will get, and just your prediction overall. So, Yordenis Ugas, his game is really going to be boxing on the outside, landing that right hand, and really trying to find openings to score points in this fight. And I think he will have a decent amount of success. But as for Errol Spence Jr., fighting out of that southpaw stance, he's going to be the one coming forward a bit more than Ugas, going to be the one pressing the action a bit more, being that he's more of a power puncher than Ugas is. But he also has some decent defense as well. Very, very good, well-balanced fighter. Errol Spence Jr. is. He's shown that he has a great chin. I believe he's never been dropped in his career thus far. And we've only really seen him hurt once out of a couple times throughout his career, specifically against Bundu when he got hit with that massive shot. Surprised he didn't even go down. Yeah, both these guys have great chins on them. So, I mean, this will be a very interesting fight while it lasts, but I do think that Errol Spence Jr. will land the more eye-catching shots throughout the fight and really just score points for being the aggressor and really just taking the fight in his manner. But I do think that Yordenis Ugas will score a lot of points himself with his counterpunching as well. I mean, it's really a tough fight to predict exactly overall, but I really just believe that Errol Spence Jr. will be the one getting the victory here. And I do think that it will be very, very close in the judges' scorecards. Maybe even some people might think it's a draw, 114-114. However, the judges might sway in favor of Spence, like by unanimous, like a close unanimous, something like that. But overall, I think on the judges' scorecards, it should be close. And as I mentioned before, I really see every round being very similar throughout this entire fight, with Spence being the one fighting at mid-range and coming forward with his southpaw stance, sticking that jab out there, trying to throw his powerful left hand, whilst Yordenis Ugas is going to be the one on the outside, trying to bob and weave, stick and move, land some big right hands, counters, and trying to score points in this fight with that Cuban school. And Yordenis Ugas isn't really that one with the big footwork advantage over his opponents. He just is a very solid counter puncher, and that's really what goes to his game. And one of his best traits one of his best attributes in the game and traits, obviously, is that he's an excellent, accurate puncher, and a lot of his shots land there like a sniper. I mean, he's a very, very calculated fighter, very technical fighter, and I think that he will give Errol Spence Jr. a lot of problems. However, I do not think that Spence Jr. will be beaten. And I really think that the judges will score this bout like 116-112, and even 115-113, like twice, something like that. But I do think this fight will be really, really close. But I do think that Errol Spence Jr. will edge it by unanimous decision. And if he wins, which I think he will become the three-belt welterweight world champion coming into this fight. Obviously, the WBC and IBF champion, as I mentioned before. And if he wins, will add the WBA title to that. And if he wins, he could possibly fight Terence Crawford or even fight the winner of Radza Butaya versus Imatas Stanionis. But nonetheless, it's still a very, very good, very, very big fight for either man of the winner. Even if Ugas wins, it's a big fight for him in his next fight. And he could make a lot of money, being that this is for really in one of the glamour divisions in boxing. And this is for 3 belts on pay-per-view. Huge card. So overall, I believe that Errol Spence Jr. will defeat Yordenis Ugas by unanimous decision. And I believe that the judges will score this bout 116-112 and 115-113 twice in favor of Spence. And I think that Spence will become the unified 3-belt WBC, IBF, and WBA welterweight world champion. And yeah, that's really it. I'm MB Boxing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.